Sometimes the person you throw away becomes the only one who can save you. When billionaire tech mogul dismissed a brilliant scientist because of her race, he thought he'd never see her again. 7 years later, as his empire crumbles and his life hangs by a thread, she holds the key to everything. If you love stories of karma and redemption, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will leave you speechless. It's 2017, and I'm standing in the gleaming headquarters of Sterling Dynamics in Silicon Valley, watching what would become one of the most powerful examples of karma I've ever witnessed unfold in real time. The woman walking into that boardroom had no idea she was about to face a moment that would define not just her future, but the fate of the man sitting across from her. Her name was Dr. Naomi Sterling, and at 28, she was already being called a genius in biomedical engineering circles. She'd spent 4 years developing something revolutionary, a targeted cancer treatment that could potentially save millions of lives. The research was groundbreaking, the science was solid, and she was about to pitch it to Vincent Kane, the 35-year-old CEO worth $2.3 billion. I watched Vincent's eyes light up as Naomi presented her findings. This wasn't just another pitch. This was the kind of breakthrough that could change everything. Her treatment used nanotechnology to deliver medicine directly to cancer cells, leaving healthy tissue untouched. The early results were incredible. Vincent was leaning forward, asking detailed questions, clearly impressed. For 45 minutes, that room buzzed with the energy of something truly special happening. But then everything changed. During the break, I overheard Vincent's investors talking in hushed tones. They weren't discussing the science or the potential profits. They were worried about optics, about market perception, about whether their predominantly white, male investor base would feel comfortable backing a young black woman. The words they used were careful, coded, but the message was crystal clear. When Vincent returned to that boardroom, he was a different person. The excitement was gone, replaced by something cold and calculated. I'll never forget the look on Naomi's face when he delivered his rejection. "Dr. Sterling," he said, not even meeting her eyes, "your research is interesting, but I don't think this is the right fit for our company culture." Company culture. Those two words hung in the air like poison. Naomi kept her composure. She was a professional through and through, but I could see the devastation in her eyes. This wasn't just a business rejection. This was her life's work being dismissed for reasons that had nothing to do with science and everything to do with prejudice. She gathered her papers, thanked him politely, and walked out of that building with her head held high. But as she reached the elevator, she turned back and said something that would prove prophetic. "Mr. Kane, I hope you never find yourself in a position where you need what you're rejecting today." Vincent brushed it off. He convinced himself it was purely a business decision, that he was protecting his company's interests. Within months, he'd moved on to other ventures, other deals. Naomi Sterling became a footnote in his busy life, if she was even that. Meanwhile, Naomi's world was falling apart. Word traveled fast in their industry, and suddenly doors that should have been wide open were slamming shut. Other companies cited budget constraints, timing issues, strategic pivots, but the real reason was always lurking beneath the surface. Month after month, rejection after rejection, Naomi watched her savings dwindle and her options disappear. But here's where this story takes its first incredible turn. Instead of giving up, instead of letting bitterness consume her, Naomi made a decision that would change everything. She sold her apartment, liquidated her retirement fund, and bought a one-way ticket to Switzerland. She'd been offered a modest position at a small research institute in Geneva. Not glamorous, not well-funded, but it was a chance to continue her work. 5 years passed. 5 long years during which Vincent Kane's empire continued to grow. Sterling Dynamics went public, his net worth soared, and he became one of Silicon Valley's most celebrated success stories. He gave keynote speeches about innovation, about taking risks, about recognizing talent. The irony was lost on him completely. But in a quiet laboratory in Switzerland, Dr. Naomi Sterling was making history. Her cancer treatment, refined through years of dedicated research, had begun saving lives in European clinical trials. The results were so remarkable that medical journals were calling it a paradigm shift in cancer care. By 2022, she'd founded her own company, Genesis Biomed, and was being discussed for a Nobel Prize. She was no longer the young woman who'd been rejected in that Silicon Valley boardroom. She was Dr. Naomi Sterling Chen now, married to a fellow researcher, confident, successful, and internationally recognized. Her treatment had saved thousands of lives across Europe and Asia, and pharmaceutical giants were lining up to license her technology. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was October 2023 when Vincent Kane first felt the fatigue. At 41, he was at the peak of his success, but something was wrong. The exhaustion that sleep couldn't cure, the unexplained weight loss, the night sweats. His doctor's face when the test results came back told him everything he needed to know. Acute myeloid leukemia, aggressive, advanced. The man who'd built an empire on recognizing opportunity, on calculating risks, was facing odds that no amount of money could improve. Traditional treatments failed one by one. Chemotherapy barely slowed the cancer's advance. Radiation bought him time, but not much. His medical team, the best money could buy, delivered the verdict no billionaire wants to hear: 18 months, maybe less. As news of Vincent's illness leaked, Sterling Dynamics stock began to tumble. The company he'd built was hemorrhaging value, and his carefully constructed world was crumbling around him. Desperate, his medical team began searching globally for experimental treatments, for clinical trials, for anything that might save their patient's life. That's when they found it. A revolutionary treatment being used in Switzerland, with success rates that seemed too good to be true. The researcher behind it was Dr. Naomi Sterling Chen of Genesis Biomed. When Vincent's lead oncologist showed him the name, the blood drained from his face. The woman he'd rejected 7 years ago, the brilliant scientist whose work he'd dismissed as not fitting his company culture, was now his only hope for survival. The irony was so perfect, so complete, that it felt like the universe itself was delivering justice. Vincent spent weeks trying to find alternatives, funding research into other treatments, consulting with specialists around the world. But every path led back to the same conclusion. Naomi's treatment was his best shot at survival, possibly his only shot. Swallowing his pride became a matter of life and death. His assistant made the call to Genesis Biomed in Geneva. The conversation was awkward, painful, with long silences as Vincent struggled to find words. He was requesting a meeting with Dr. Sterling Chen, he explained. It was urgent. It was personal. It was about a patient who desperately needed her help. The response came back within hours. Dr. Sterling Chen would see him, but only if he came to Switzerland personally. No video calls, no intermediaries. If Vincent Kane wanted her help, he would have to look her in the eye and ask for it. The flight to Geneva was the longest of Vincent's life. Weakened by treatments, haunted by the recognition of what he'd done, he had 18 hours to confront the magnitude of his past choices. The woman whose life he'd derailed with his prejudice was now literally holding his life in her hands. Genesis Biomed's headquarters was everything Sterling Dynamics was: cutting edge, successful, impressive, but with something Vincent's company had always lacked: genuine diversity, real inclusion, innovation driven by merit rather than politics. As he was escorted to Naomi's office, he passed laboratories filled with researchers from every background imaginable, working together on projects that were changing the world. When the door opened, Vincent barely recognized the woman who stood to greet him. This wasn't the nervous young scientist from 7 years ago. This was Dr. Naomi Sterling Chen, CEO and founder, confident and composed, looking at him with eyes that held no anger, just a quiet assessment. "Mr. Kane," she said simply, Please sit down." For a moment, they just looked at each other across that pristine office. Finally, Vincent found his voice. "Dr. Sterling Chen, I need your help." She nodded slowly. "I know your medical team has been very thorough in their explanations. Your case is challenging, but not hopeless. My treatment has shown remarkable success with your specific type of leukemia. Then you'll help me?" The hope in his voice was desperate, raw. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. "7 years ago, you told me my wa wasn't right for your company culture. Do you remember that conversation?" Vincent's shoulders sagged. "Yes, I remember. Do you remember why you really rejected my proposal?" The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of truth. Finally, Vincent spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because my investors were worried about backing a black woman. Because I let their prejudices override my judgment. Because I was a coward who chose profit over principle. And how did that work out for you?" Vincent looked up at her, seeing not just the successful CEO she'd become, but the brilliant young scientist he'd failed. "It was the worst decision I ever made. Not just because I need your help now, but because it was wrong. It was always wrong." Naomi turned back to him, her expression thoughtful. "I could help you, Vincent. My treatment could save your life. But I have conditions. Anything, name it. I want you to establish a fund, $100 million, dedicated to supporting underrepresented researchers in STEM fields. I want you to publicly acknowledge what happened between us. And I want Sterling Dynamics to implement real diversity initiatives, not just token gestures." Vincent didn't hesitate. "Done, all of it. And one more thing," Naomi said, her voice softening slightly. "I want you to understand that this isn't about revenge. It's about making sure what happened to me never happens to another young scientist with a world-changing idea." The treatment began immediately. For months, Vincent traveled between San Francisco and Geneva, receiving Naomi's revolutionary therapy while simultaneously restructuring his company and his foundation. The public acknowledgement was humiliating but necessary, a confession of how prejudice had nearly cost him everything, including his life. But something remarkable happened during those months of treatment. Vincent didn't just recover physically, he was transformed, working closely with Naomi's diverse team, seeing innovation flourish in an environment built on inclusion rather than exclusion. He began to understand what his company had been missing all along. By early 2024, Vincent was in complete remission. His cancer was gone. His company had been restructured around genuine diversity principles, and the Sterling Cain Foundation was supporting hundreds of young researchers from underrepresented communities. The story could have ended there, but the best part was yet to come. In March 2024, Sterling Dynamics and Genesis Biomed announced a partnership, not just to license Naomi's cancer treatment, but to collaborate on the next generation of medical breakthroughs. The two companies that should have been partners 7 years ago were finally working together, this time on equal terms. At the press conference, announcing their partnership, a reporter asked Vincent about the journey that led to this moment. His answer was simple but profound. "Sometimes the universe has a way of correcting our mistakes. 7 years ago, I let prejudice blind me to brilliance. Dr. Sterling Chen saved more than my life. She saved my soul." Naomi's response was equally powerful. "This partnership isn't about forgiveness or redemption. It's about the future. It's about ensuring that genius is recognized regardless of the package it comes in." Today, their joint ventures have saved thousands more lives, and the Sterling Cain Foundation has become one of the largest supporters of diverse talent in STEM fields. Vincent's near-death experience taught him that success without integrity is meaningless, and that sometimes the people we dismiss become the ones who save us. The woman he rejected because she didn't fit his company culture became the person who gave him a second chance at life and showed him what his company culture should have been all along. It's a reminder that karma doesn't always come with punishment. Sometimes it comes with the opportunity to make things right. This incredible story proves that karma always finds a way. And sometimes the people we underestimate become our greatest teachers. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories of justice, redemption, and the power of never giving up. What do you think? Did Naomi make the right choice? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, the person you overlook today might be the one who changes your world tomorrow.